Welcome to another honing video. This is an ERN 207. It is sent to me for honing, for repair and honing, by a good friend on Reddit. He bought this razor and has done a really terrific job of doing a very careful restoration of it. It has really nice etching and gold wash on it. The scales, as you can see, are kind of a faux tortoise shell. It's very difficult to see. You can see maybe up here. I think they feel like plastic. The beautiful spine work, and there is a little bit of spine wear, but an issue with this razor, there's two issues. The first is that the gold wash goes right up under where the spine would hit the stone. And much more spine wear, especially here, is going to eat into that gold wash. So I'm going to have to use tape on this razor, and part of the reason for that is that the razor has some corrosion right at the edge. I think it was quite smart not to try to do any restoration activity on the very edge. I'm going to try to show you that corrosion now. And here is the best I can do at showing the corrosion damage at the edge. So here is the back side of the razor. As you can see, it has the Wald Solingen stamp on it, the crown and sword, as well as the made in Germany. Let's see here if you can see that. There you go. There's the made in Germany. It has some really interesting etching. I do not know what any of that means. Looks Cyrillic-like to me. Maybe Arabic, I don't know. Anyway, that's the back side. I showed you the face or show side. Very cool. So let's get on to the next steps. Okay, so the razor lies flat on both sides, and I've already determined that I'm going to be using tape, but I'll take you through the measurements. The blade width measures 19 millimeters from the apex to the area of the spine, the widest area of the spine that would lie against the stone. The spine width itself, without tape, measures 5.4 millimeters. The spine width with tape measures 5.8 millimeters. And so now we get into our calculations. This half angle here, it would be calculated using the overall spine width divided by 2. And the total bevel angle is twice that. So here is the calculation for the bevel angle right here. And it comes up with 0.306 radians, which is basically 17 and a half degrees. And while that's wide, it's certainly well within the 15 to 18 degree range that I normally consider comfortable. And that's great because that's the range with tape. So I think we're good to go. Here's a scan of the ERN 207 edge, showing the corrosion. So this is what the edge looks like before any work is done. A concern that I have is how high the corrosion goes up onto the bevel. And our hope here is that what I'm seeing corrosion-wise is surface and has not worked its way into the core of the edge. Okay, so here we are at the stones. Here's the taped razor, the taped ERN 207. I'm going to start, this is going to be a synthetic hone. I'm starting on the 2000 grit. I'm going to rough the surface up a little bit with, this is a 140 Atoma. However, this stone is, even though it looks new, is actually quite old. It's probably the diamond clusters are broken up and torn off enough that this probably cuts more like a 400 than a 140. But nonetheless, so we're going to start here. I'm not going to kill the edge, and the reason for that is that I want the entire bevel to be worked at once on both sides, and that's because there's quite a bit of corrosion that goes up the bevel, and so I want to work the entire bevel. The razor's going to shorten anyway, so that 17-degree angle is going to increase, but that there's nothing to prevent that. When you hone, whatever blade you're honing or sharpening gets shorter, so or gets less wide in this dimension. So let's get going. The goal here, hang on, need a little water. The goal here is to really just get started. I need to see what happens at the bevel, and I need to be looking at the entire bevel through this process. Oh, sorry about that. Now this is a full hollow razor, and the thickness at the edge is already pretty thin, which is good. And so so it's my hope that I don't need to do a lot of this to get that new bevel established. The other thing that's quite nice is that this razor lies flat, and so I don't have to, and I can tell from the feel of the razor on the stone that it's flat. So I don't need to do a lot of gyrations to get an even grind on the edge, and that's always pleasant. In fact, that's actually why most of the time, if I do the Dr. Matt thing, it's when a razor is so far out that I think it's just more of a pain in the butt to sort of adapt to its shape on the stone. I can do it, but sometimes it's just not worth it. Also, if I'm handing the razor to somebody who is then going to maintain it themselves, and who maybe doesn't have the same amount of experience, it's nicer if they can just go back and forth, which is what you see most people on YouTube do, is just go back and forth, a number of times until they think, I've got it right, I've got it. Okay, so let's see if you can see this. The reflections from the bevel, I'm not sure I'm really showing you anything here. The reflections from, I don't think I'm showing you anything. The reflections from the bevel, or from the edge, I should say, and I'm using the glint method, are almost gone. There's an area right here where I can see the effect of still the effect of corrosion. So we're gonna work on that area. I'm definitely I'm getting on top of this edge, so I'm not putting much pressure on the tape side, on the spine. I'm definitely rotating the razor into the stone. Also I'm trying to induce a slight amount of curve into that shape. It'll make it slightly more comfortable to shave with. All right, let's take a look. I'm probably going to bump to the 4K and then take a good hard look under the microscope. The 2K scratch pattern is pretty coarse under the kind of there we go. There you can sort of see the glint off the edge. It's looking nice and clean now. Yeah. Let me look at this side. It's hard for me to show it to you, but it's looking pretty clean. Clean using the glint method. I see a little bit down here. So let's work on the heel. And what I think I'm seeing is actually corrosion up on the bevel. And so that's going to be very important to have clean metal, fresh metal, on both bevels as well as the apex, at least as much as possible. Okay, let's take another look. You notice I'm not testing for sharpness yet, because right now we need to get this edge in shape. If it's full of corrosion, that's going to pit. The metal's going to fall apart, and that's not what you want. All right, so I'm not necessarily showing all of this to you. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to pop up to the 4K. And by the way, I've flattened all these stones before starting to record. I'm going to pop up to the 4K. I think I'm seeing a dot of corrosion right there. And I'm definitely concerned about that, but we're going to pop up to the 4K. Let's see, right there. Need a little water. One of the reasons that the Shapton glass became so popular many years ago amongst some of us was most of the stones we were using, most of the synthetic stones we were using required soaking. And a stone that you have to soak, whatever your surface slurry is, will effectively go into the stone. So you're always maintaining your slurry on the stone. That's just an extra step. And so these splash and go stones were a godsend for people like me, which at the time I was doing a lot of knife sharpening, and just, you know, it was it was from a time optimization perspective. It was just nice. It was nice that the slurry would basically stay on the top of the stone, very little drying. And I happen to really like the feel of these hard stones. That's not universal for sure. Okay, let me, all right, that looks good. That looks better. All right, I'm gonna move on here to the 4K. Here we are at the 4K. I'm just gonna douse this in water. Raise a bit of a slurry here. Let's see, is this thing reasonably straight? Yeah, it is. My video making skills, as I'm sure you already know, are pretty minimal. Very unsophisticated. Press record, start talking. I only find out later when I edit these things what I've said. And then because of my age, I don't remember anyway, so. All right, so we have a little bit of slurry going here. I round the edges of every stone I have. I chamfer the edges. Okay. Now we're concerned about bringing up something that's sharp. Why aren't I counting? Because I'm working the entire edge. I'm doing this the way a knife sharpener does it. I'm paying attention to how the edge feels on the stone, and I'm working the areas that feel as if they need work. You don't get that on day one, but a little bit of time on the stone and attention. I mean, you have to be intent on developing this skill as opposed to counting. But I'm convinced that pretty much anybody can do this. I mean, people have been rubbing iron and later steel on rocks to sharpen stuff for a very long time. And we're drying off. I definitely want this slurry on this synthetic stone, even though technically it's not required, because again, I want to get abrasion up that bevel to get as much of the oxidation off the bevel as possible. All right, let's see how we're doing here. All right, I think we'll do our first test see if we can even break. I didn't show you. Sorry about that. The edge wouldn't break the surface of a packing peanut. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. Barely breaking. Barely breaking. So we have a ways to go yet, but not too far. I can tell it's almost there. So let's and I'm going to do the procedure of getting it sharp and then going a little bit more. I didn't used to, well, the packing peanut, I found out about the whole packing peanut idea from Bill M, watching Bill M one day, and I thought, wow, that's great. What I was doing before was treating the razor like a knife. I would sharpen based on feel the edge, and I can tell the edge is not far enough along yet. But from doing so many knives, I have pretty good feel doing this, and so I would feel the edge, and then I would actually inspect the edge, and only at the very end would I'd get some incredibly thin rolling paper. I don't roll anything with it, but I have rolling paper that's a cutting test. It's ultra thin, and it's fairly easy to slice, but it's almost impossible to push cut. And so that would be my final test. As I've said before, I don't care for the hair tricks. Simply because my OCD prevents me from it prevents me from believing that there's a standardized hair that I can use. So I shy away from them. I've done them all in the past, especially hair whittling. Hair whittling is kind of a collector knife thing. People who collect knives, a lot of which are folders in exotic steels, they kind of like it if the knife is sharp enough to whittle hair. So I've done that, but it's not practical. I mean, you probably have seen Eric the Cajun Blade sharpen a skinning knife, and you just break the edge off if it's so sharp it'll whittle hair. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's going to go against bone, gristle, tendons and stuff. It's not practical for a working knife to get it that sharp. But for a collector knife, for something that you kind of put in your pocket and treat as jewelry, and I do that. I'm shallow. I do this stuff. But for a collector knife, it's kind of a nice parlor trick. And when you get it that sharp, you've got a mirror polish typically on the edge, and that looks cool. Again, for those of us that have no shame and are shallow. I'm still not convinced that's there, but maybe it's getting there. Nope, we have achieved sharpness. Okay, so that's good. That's actually based on, again, experience. It's a little sharper. It's pretty even. It's a little less sharp there. I'm gonna, again, from an OCD perspective, clean off the stone. Raise a little fresh slurry. let's now, we have a good edge. Let's now push that edge, or see if the edge will improve a little bit. Again, I've said before that on each stone there's a point of diminishing returns. Each stone has a kind of an optimum sharpness that it can achieve because of the hardness or softness of the stone itself, and mostly because of the abrasive size. And so, you know, there comes a point where it really makes sense to move on. And so what we're trying to do here is just see, you know, have I already reached that point of diminishing return, or you know, if doing a little bit more work will help me get to that point. Because if I get to that point on this stone, it's just less work that I have to do on the next one, which will have much finer sized abrasives. Okay, our fresh packing peanut here. That's about the same as it was. So I think I've gone about as far as I can with the 4K here. I'm gonna pause this video and go take a look at the edge under the microscope, because our primary concern at the moment is not keenness of the edge, it's quality of the edge. So I'm going to pause and I will be right back. All right, I have just shown you a video of the edge on the razor at 4K. You gotta love this ERN steel. It cleaned up amazingly well. I'm going to tentatively declare success here and move from the 4000 grit to the 8000 grit stone. And see if we can finish this up and then do a test shave. Apologies, this is a long video. I'm taking you through every step of my process for dealing with a razor that has some issues, and I'm also taking my time to make sure that I do. This is not my razor, as I've said, so I can talk while doing this, but nonetheless, I want the owner of this razor to get the best, to get the proper, to get a razor that's had the proper attention given to it. So that for me takes time. So you're along for the ride, but you know, YouTube has tools for that. When I get boring, which generally starts at about minute 1. There's this, you can speed up the playback. Don't forget, I still have to edit this thing. Okay. Here we go. Let's finish up. 8K. As I said, this is going to be a synthetic edge. What I'm going to do is put the majority of the keenness in at 8K. Going to do a little refinement at 12K, where the final thing that I do is draw out the edge. Then I'm going to go to my newly discovered balsa strop. Newly discovered in that I've never used it until the one stone hone. I had never used it for razors before, but I loved the result. So I'm going to go from the 12K to that and call it an edge. I want some more. I want to. I really liked how nice and clean the bevel surface was. The slurry really did its job. And as I've said before, I like softer, less scalpel-like synthetic edges, and so I use the slurry to help keep the apex soft. I'll use slurry almost all the way through this progression. You can see I'm just sliding the razor across the stone. The slurry is just popping up over the edge. I have no issues. I don't have any part of the edge that I need to give special attention to. I'm really just waiting to see if I can already tell that the apex is into the stone, which again is a term that I use. What it really means is that the bevels have narrowed and pulled back enough that I can feel a change at the apex in the stone, which is again why I go so slowly. I need to feel that. Let's do our preliminary test here. This should be almost in the cloud range, and I'd say that it is. I'm barely pushing. It's making a little sound, but it's not that pop sound. There's a pop sound. There you go. There's a pop sound. But it's taking almost no effort, and there are areas of the edge that aren't making that sound. So let's follow the plan and do a little more. Try to get to the point of diminishing returns on this stone. In terms of grit, this stone is about 2 microns. The 12K is a little over 1 micron, and the balsa will have 0.75 micron polycrystalline diamond emulsion on it. Okay. Back with the peanut, find a fresh edge. Okay, that is now pushed into the cloud territory. Silent, equal pressure for the small area that I'm pushing into the peanut. So we are now done with this stone. This is the Nanawa 12K. Not my favorite stone in the world, but with slurry on it, you can make it work. And I have yet to find a need to buy an expensive stone in this range. So I haven't. You know, I could buy a Sahiro or you know, one of the 20K stones or one of the 30K stones. I have the Shafton Glass 16K, and I can make that work. But for the most part, that's for most applications, or at least for the way I prepare an edge. It's more refinement than is necessary. You know, I can hand you a knife at 2K that will shave hair. And so the amount of refinement that you do above that is a very personal choice. And I find that most people, if you refine the edge too far, and this is coming from feedback, if you refine the edge too far, most people will say it's too sharp, or a little harsh, or too scalpel-like. So I dial that back. All right, here we go. Did I raise? There it is. There's some slurry. I'm going to do most of these in this direction. Trying to pull the edge out, which is what edge trailing does. I am using some pressure to do that, some torque, edge bias, you pick your term, because I want the edge thinner. And you're going to say, well, wait, doesn't that make it weaker? And the answer to that is yes, it does. But I'm going to convex. I'm going to put an apple seed convex shape on the edge when I take it to the balsa. All right, we will have, more than likely, we will have drawn out a foil burr. So I'm going to cut that off now. You can't see it, but the thin slurry and the thin slurry is popping up over the blade, over the edge. So we know we're sharp. I can feel that edge on the gumminess of this binder. So I know we still have a sharp edge. We're going to test so that I can determine if even though it feels good, did I take it backwards? That happens. I'm sure it doesn't happen to you, but it happens to me. Okay, so here we are. Now we're well into pushing the cloud territory here. And again, I don't need to go far into the packing peanut. It's only the first 1/2 millimeter. of the razor that I care about. Okay, in terms of sharpness, keenness. All right, so it's balsa time. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm definitely leaving the tape on for this. And I'm definitely using some pressure. Okay. Okay. Now let's strop it and go take a look under the microscope, and I'll be back to sum up. Okay, I just showed you a picture of the stropped edge, a little microscope video of the stropped edge. It's looking very clean. You can't see it because I look straight down at the edge, straight down at the apex. JPO, who has pretty much basically the same microscope, he takes the razor and he tilts it up so he can look into the apex to get an idea about apex width. I don't worry so much about apex width because I'm testing that for sharpness. And because of the way I test, I know it's going to be even enough from heel to toe. So I'm worried about the outline. I want to see a nice outline on the edge. Anyway, you just saw that. Thank you for watching. Certainly make comments and ask questions. And let's go take this for a test shave. Thanks. Bye.